There's a certain kind of film that begins by pretending it's one thing, only to transform into something else entirely. Swimming Pool from 2003 is one of those. On the surface, it looks like a murder mystery, a sultry psychological thriller set in a sun-drenched French villa, but underneath the film is doing something far stranger and far more interesting. It's a movie about the creative process, about the blurry boundary between reality and imagination, and what it takes for an artist to break out of their own limitations. Swimming Pool was directed by French filmmaker Francoise Ozon, who by that point had already built a reputation for stylish, provocative films like Under the Sand and 8 Women. The movie stars Charlotte Rampling as Sarah Morton, a successful British crime novelist, and Ludovine Saunier as Julie, the chaotic, sensual young woman who disrupts Sarah's quiet writing retreat. The film premiered at Cannes and was met with both praise and debate, especially regarding its opaque ending and genre-bending style. At the box office, it did surprisingly well for an indie European drama, becoming one of Ozon's most financially successful films, particularly in the US, where it grossed far above expectations. Critics singled out Rampling's performance, which carries the film with an incredible mix of restraint, repression, and a slow burn volatility. The story follows Rampling's character, who escapes to her publisher's French country house to cure her writer's block. She's hoping for peace and maybe a little inspiration, but soon after she arrives, Julie, her publisher's daughter, shows up unannounced. She's everything Sarah isn't. Free-spirited, hypersexual, impulsive, their clashing personalities create tension, and their dynamic becomes almost parasitic as Sarah starts using Julie as material for a new book. Then, one night, after a violent confrontation between Julie and one of her lovers, there's a murder. Sarah helps hide the body, buries it with chilling efficiency, and protects Julie without hesitation. But in the film's final reveal, when Sarah returns to London, we meet the real Julie, who looks and acts nothing like the one we just spent the entire movie with in a French villa. The film is structured like a thriller, but it functions like a metaphor for something completely unrelated. The murder, the sensuality, the tension, these aren't plot beats, they're psychological ones. The movie looks like a crime film only because Sarah Morton writes crime. What we're actually watching is the inside of her creative process. Sarah arrives at the villa stiff, repressed and blocked. She's a writer who has spent a lifetime creating murder stories without ever having lived through anything remotely exciting, it seems. And then Julie appears, almost like an apparition. She embodies everything Sarah does not allow herself to be. She drinks, dances without shame, sleeps with whoever she wants, and breaks every boundary Sarah's built around herself until she finally even kills a man. It's no accident that Julie feels like a fantasy. She's not just a character in a film, she's a character in Sarah's imagination. Or at least the film invites us to consider that possibility. Ozon leaves the details deliberately vague, which is what keeps the film lingering in your head long after it ends. But once you view Julie as a manifestation of Sarah's imagination, or metaphor for a writer's uninhibited instincts, the entire movie clicks into place. Much of the film plays like we're watching Sarah push herself into territories she could never access in real life. Julie becomes kind of an avatar, through which Sarah explores the instincts she represses. Its desire, spontaneity, violence, moral ambiguity. It starts small. Sarah watches Julie dance, envious and uncomfortable, as though witnessing a version of herself that was never allowed to exist. Soon the fantasies escalate. Sarah starts spying on Julie, reading her diary, absorbing her energy. Eventually Sarah crosses even bigger lines, which even leads her to sexually engage with the gardener in order to keep him from discovering the dead body. By this point, Sarah isn't simply observing Julie's world anymore, she's immersed in it. The film suggests that writers sometimes invent not only characters, but entire emotional landscapes. These are personas they use to access stories they otherwise couldn't reach. When a writer imagines a character doing something transgressive in a way, they're doing it themselves, but safely at a distance. The murder too fits this metaphor. It's the ultimate act Sarah would never commit, but it's the perfect thing for a crime novelist to write about. Helping hide the body becomes symbolic. Sarah is finally inside her own genre. She's no longer a block writer. She's the creator fully aligned with her subject matter. And she does it all with shocking ease. Because it isn't real. It's fiction blooming in her head. In the end, when Sarah returns home, confident and revitalized, Ozon introduces us to the real Julie, an entirely different young woman. It's the film's sly confirmation that much of what Sarah experienced may have existed only in her head. The Julie she knew was a tool, a psychological construct that allowed her to unlock her creativity and break beyond her own limits. The ambiguity remains intact, but the message becomes clear. Swimming Pool is about a murder, and at the same time not about a murder at all. It's about the creative mind and the length it must go to find inspiration. And sometimes you have to invent a thing that frightens you to experience something you would never do in real life. To conclude, Swimming Pool masquerades as a thriller, but it's really a portrait of artistic liberation. It's about the fantasies writers create to push themselves further, to step outside their own moral, social, and psychological boundaries. And it's precisely this misdirection, this film within a mind, or this mind within a film, that makes Ozon's movie so compelling. If you enjoy indie films that play with genre and blur the lines between reality and imagination, Swimming Pool is a gem to watch.